All right, so let's get into it. The Galaxy Z Fold 2 5G. I really enjoyed my original Galaxy Fold, but this thing has brought to the table almost everything that I did not like about the first Galaxy Fold, starting with the inner screen. I mean, the corners are less rounded. It's definitely a bigger area. The little hole punch camera doesn't take up nearly as much room as that annoying notch that they had in the first one, which kind of got in the way when you were playing games or watching content or any of that kind of stuff. The improvement here is tremendous. I mean, honestly, kudos to Samsung for actually getting that right. But let's get into our normal three things, right? The first thing that I love about this device is that they actually finally fixed the front screen. The front screen on the other one was kind of like an afterthought. I didn't feel like they really thought it through before they put it on there. They figured people would just be looking at it to check notifications and things like that, more like the Galaxy Z Flip. But what they did here was make an actual usable screen. So I want to say the first thing that I really love about this device, they really did fix the issues when it came to the front screen. The inner screen also has a tremendous amount of improvement. It's a little bit larger. It's less rounded off in the corners. Also, they only have a little hole punch camera here instead of what they had before, which was that large notch. Kind of got in the way for games, for content viewing and things like that. It seemed to always be in the way. It was a compromise, basically. Do I think they really even need this hole punch on the inside for taking selfies? I mean, you have a selfie camera on the front. You have the use of the main cameras, and you can use the front screen, to take selfies with the main camera. So honestly, I think they could probably get away with ditching it unless they're going to put it under the screen like they had said. So first thing I really love about the device is the improvement on both screens. They did a tremendous job in listening to the community and figuring out what they really needed to fix based on users and user feedback. And it's good to see a company do that, to actually listen to the people who are using their devices, because it wasn't a tremendous amount of people, really that bought the original device, if you think about it. So, it was a lot of phones, don't get me wrong, but compared to an S20 or a regular Galaxy launch, they didn't sell nearly as many of the Galaxy Fold. So to really hear the community and understand what they wanted, I think was a huge plus for Samsung. The second thing that I love about this phone is they did a really great job this year with the cameras. I think these cameras are much better than the original Fold. The original Fold had decent cameras. This pretty much will take a good shot no matter what you're doing with it. It's solid. It's not the Note 20 Ultra cameras, obviously. It's only got the 3 sensors, but it does a really good job in most situations. I haven't had any issues with the camera. I've gone out and taken tons of pictures since I got this, and honestly, I really like the shots that it takes. It doesn't oversaturate as much as the original Fold did, so there's a plus. And I don't think anybody would be disappointed with the cameras in here. Now, I know a lot of people say, hey, well, it doesn't have the top of the line cameras and it's a $2,000 phone. I get it, but these cameras are solid. I don't feel like people should, pan it because it's missing a couple of features that some of the newer phones have. I do get the point that this is supposedly the top of the line phone that they make, but because of the release schedule and all that kind of stuff, it always tends to get, the previous generation cameras. It did on the last one as well. The third thing I really like about this is the app pairs. Believe it or not, when you have this much screen real estate, it is really nice to multitask. I'm not usually a multitasker. I don't do a lot of that, but it is nice to be able to watch a video and, scroll through Twitter or whatever I feel like doing with 2 different apps at the same time. It's much better on a larger screen, and you can switch it. You can have your app pairs, whether you have them, you pull off the side, you just grab 2 apps. You can have them side by side, or you can hit the little button in the middle here and you can have them side by side this way, whatever your preference is. But honestly, I think they did a really good job with the multitasking on here. I mean, you've seen the other videos. They'll show you that you can put a bunch of them on here if you want to. That gets a little cluttered for me. I don't use more than 2 apps at the same time. You know, if I'm watching a video and I want to scroll through Twitter, that's one of my bigger things that I would do with 2 apps. Having 3 or 4 on there, it gets hectic. I mean, I don't think there's really any point of doing that. You know, if it was an LG widescreen, it'd be a different story. But I really don't feel like you need to have more than 2 apps open at the same time. And this does that really well. You basically have almost a full screen size, phone screen size on both sides. So you have plenty of room to do what you want to do. And, you know, being able to switch them as far as the orientation really helps when you're watching a YouTube video up here and you're scrolling down here. Okay, now we'll get into a few of the things that I don't like about this phone, okay? I still think it's too thick, okay? It's a little too thick. It does help with holding it. Honestly, when you're holding it in this particular orientation, it's grippy. Even with, I mean, I only have a D-brand skin on here. I don't have anything else on it. So, and it's not slippery. It's not sliding out of my hand. It feels comfortable. I don't feel like I'm going to drop it. So the thickness helps in that respect, but in other respect, I mean, as far as pocketability, I mean, it makes a lump in your pocket. Let's put it that way. I'm wondering if there's anything they're going to be able to really do about that anytime soon, with the fact that you got to have batteries in here and, you know, all the stuff that needs to go inside to make this work. So I don't feel like they're going to be able to get something to solve that issue anytime soon to make it that much thinner. But with that being said, this is definitely, the 2 halves are thinner, I feel like, than my original one. It feels better in my hand than the original one did. It's a little more squared off, and it, you know, the other one was a lot rounder. So as far as pocketability, the other one fit in your pocket a little bit better, but, you know, and they did close this gap up a little bit. So it's not quite as obvious. So, and stuff can't get in there quite as easily. You know, it's still a detriment to the phone because it's kind of thick, honestly. It's really nice and thin when it's open, but you can't put it in your pocket like this. So that's why I gave that my first, you know, that's why I gave it a thumbs down, basically. I feel like they can get better at it. I don't know. It's going to take a while for the technology to get there. Okay, so the second thing I did not like about this phone, and this is kind of nitpicky, but I took it off already, but the original screen protector that they put on this device was absolute hot garbage. It was junk. It was too rubbery, and it was like fingerprints everywhere. It was hard to slide on it. So if you were playing a game, like if you're playing Call of Duty on here, like your thumb would get stuck and you'd get shot, basically. So, you know, I think, you know, for what you're spending on a phone like this, they could have put a little more thought into the screen protector and not made it something that I wanted to tear off from the first day that I got it. I did keep it on there for a while, but it wasn't, it drove me nuts after a while and I had to get rid of it. The one on the front, I mean, it was fine, but it lasted no time whatsoever before it started bubbling around the corners in typical, you know, Samsung fashion. If you've ever had any other Samsung phones that have a regular screen protector on their glass, it becomes an issue. I really feel like, you know, for the amount of money that you spend on a phone like this, they could have done a little bit better, you know, and given you something a little bit higher quality, you know, even installed possibly a glass one on the front, you know, a tempered glass, something, you know, especially considering they gave you no accessories in the box, you know, like the last Fold, you got earbuds, you got a case, you got all that stuff. I mean, it's a screen protector. How much would it have cost them to put something a little bit higher quality on a device that costs this kind of money? The third thing I got to say I don't really like about this device, and unfortunately it's something they can't really fix just yet, is the fact that even though now there's ultra thin glass on here, it's basically the Z Fold. So you can still mess up your screen with a fingernail. I mean, at this point, if you're using, I know that supposedly the next iteration of this ultra thin glass is supposed to be stronger and thicker. And there's possibly going to be use of an S Pen in the next one. And I really hope that happens, you know, but right now still, it's just as fragile as the original screen was. The only real difference to me is it feels better. It feels stronger. It's just like the Galaxy Z Flip. So it feels harder, basically. It doesn't feel quite as soft as the original Fold did, but it feels better, but I know it's just as fragile as the original one was when it comes to, you know, getting marks and scratches and things like that. So I think, you know, coming around to the third version, I think they're going to get better at that, you know, especially since I'm hearing there's going to be an S Pen involved. I feel like they're going to definitely get better at that. I think in the third Galaxy Fold is where they're really going to get that right, and we're going to be able to actually use a pen on it, and we're really going to not be nervous if our fingernails are too long and we happen to push on the screen. And, you know, I know it does self-heal a little bit on the smaller dents and stuff like that, but I have seen, you know, even with this one, some issues. So, you know, it's another thing they have to work on, but I got to say overall, this is a tremendous improvement as far as the whole of the device goes from the first iteration of this. I mean, it's like night and day. It's hard to believe that this is only one generation apart from the first one. They did such a great job on this. It's not crazy heavy. I know a lot of people will say it's heavy, but once you use it for a while, it's pretty comfortable in the hand. You know, I got to say, it's nice having a phone that you can reach everything. You know, it's been a long time since we had phones that weren't so wide that you were stretching your thumb over to get to them. It's really nice to have a device that, you know, is one-handable like this is. I find the typing's not too bad. It's not nearly as bad as the first one because they did make it a hair wider. It's not quite as, you know, the other one was even thinner and shorter. So it was, especially for me, I mean, it was hard to type on. But this one, I find it's much easier to type on, and you always have swipe if you need it. I got to say, overall, I'm extremely impressed with what they've done in one generation, and I can only imagine what's going to be next with this device. How much of an improvement the third generation is going to be if they were able to make this much progress. I don't see, unfortunately, a lot of things they can do. You know, I mean, I'm not an engineer, obviously, but like just from a user perspective, I can't see how they could make it much different than it is in its current state. I think they'd have to redesign the whole thing, to be honest with you. I just can't see how it's possible for them to make this much different than it is. I mean, you can lose the hole punch or put it underneath the screen. That's one way you can do it. Obviously, you can up the cameras a little bit, but I don't think you're going to get very much thinner, and I can't see you really getting much more real estate on the front screen here. You know, I just can't see you getting a tremendous amount more real estate here. The only way you'd be able to actually get some more room here is if you made the phone wider, and as somebody pointed out to me that I was wrong, that they would make it actually even more square than it already is. But you know, I mean, if you boosted it out a little bit this way, you'd have a longer way this way, and it would kind of square it out a little too more, so a little too much more. So I really don't know how you're going to do anything really with the front screen to make it bigger unless you redesign like the width and height of the whole device. As you all know, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter or anything like that, you do realize that I am a huge fan of foldables. I think there's a huge future for this type of phone. I think you can get more real estate out of a device that is pocketable. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I love the Galaxy Z Flip, but I like it because it brings me back to the old days of, you know, foldable phones. And when you hang up on somebody, it's got that nice snap sound that you're hanging up, you know, and it's just more nostalgic for me than anything. It really doesn't serve any purpose aside from making it a little more pocketable. You're getting a standard size device when you open it. Same thing with the Razr. I think this is a smarter form factor because basically you're turning a, you know, usable phone device into a tablet, you know, and that makes the most sense to me. If you're going to fold something, you got to get something out of it, right? I mean, it shouldn't just be a standard size phone when you open it up. That doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me. I really like the nostalgia part of it, and it's really fun and all that stuff. But as far as practical, I don't feel like that form factor is as practical as this form factor. This form factor gets you, you know, a very large device when it's open. So, you know, if you want to look at a spreadsheet or you have to do something for work or you want to just watch content on an airplane or whatever you want to do, you have a much larger screen to look at. And it's something that you can, you know, fold it up and stick it in your pocket, you know, and it doesn't take up that much space. So you're carrying a phone and a tablet in your pocket. So that's why I think this is the form factor that makes the most sense. You know, I'm sure there's people out there who disagree with that. You know, I know a lot of people who like the Z Flip and the Motorola Razr, but as far as practicality, those phones, they just get a little bit smaller for your pocket, right? It's still a regular size phone when you open it up. So it doesn't really make as much sense to fold it. Like, it just doesn't. A folding, you should get something out of the fact that you can fold your device. And I feel like with this form factor, you get a nice big screen when you open it up, and you have a usable, it's a very usable screen when it's closed, and it's something that I could use. I catch myself sometimes forgetting to even open the phone, because I'll sit on here and I'll be scrolling through Twitter or whatever, and I'll realize, shoot, I can open this, but I didn't have that with the first one. With the first one, I always wanted to open the phone, and with that being said, when you leave it closed more often, obviously your battery life's a little bit better. So I feel like I've been getting much better battery life with this particular device than I was getting with the other Fold. So, and that one was pretty good, don't get me wrong. I had pretty good battery life. I feel like this one's even better than that because of the fact that I don't feel the need to open it up every single time I use it. The other one, it was almost a necessity to open it, unless I was just checking a notification or something. That's really all I used the front screen for. You really couldn't use it for much more than that. All right, so that about wraps it up for my thoughts on the Galaxy Z Fold 2 5G. I mean, listen, I love it, but there is still room for improvement. And I think you can say that about any device for the most part. I don't think anybody's come out with the perfect foldable device yet. I think it's going to be a while before somebody does. I think the technology is not quite there yet, but it's getting there. And I'm really hopeful. I hope that at some point this becomes something that is more mainstream and more people use it. And it's not like, oh, wow, what is that? Every time somebody sees it. And I'm like, oh, well, it's a foldable phone, and they never saw it before. I don't think we're going to be like that for a very long time. I think eventually something like this is going to take over, because the portability and being able to have something in your pocket that unfolds into something larger that you can use and basically takes the place of two devices, I think is very consumer friendly. It's just not mainstream enough for enough people to know about it yet. Us tech geeks in the tech world know about it, but a lot of people have never even seen a device like this. Until it becomes, just like the first iPhone, until it becomes something that more people know about, and the word gets out there that they can basically put a tablet in their pocket, and the technology gets to the point where there's no compromises in that form factor, like water resistance or dust resistance, what we have now. I think it's going to be a long time coming. I think we're at least a few years out before we get to that point, but I do think it's the future. I really think this is where things are going. All right, so thanks a lot for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you like this video and you want to subscribe to my channel, please do that as well. Helps me out a lot. All right, that about wraps it up on the Galaxy Z Fold 2 5G. I want to know what you guys think, so leave a comment down below and let me know, what your thoughts are on this device. If you have it, if you don't have it, and why, just let me know. Thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you in the next one.